It's already on the club thing, so we're good to go.
Alright, let me make sure that we're live on YouTube.
I did say that we were, because of all previous meetings, meeting at 2:45.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just want those YouTube to be live on time for once, instead of like 5 to 10 minutes after.
This is I will say, notably a cleaner setup.
Yeah, I cleared a lot of redundancies. I spent the entire morning just doing everything as simply as possible.
Good call.
The audio is iffy. I don't know how it sounds on YouTube because YouTube hates any audio signal I send to it after a while. It might be OBS because you never know what's going on. But
That's fine. If it works, I'm happy, you know?
yeah, the signal's clean. And the camera is slightly off to the right. I also made it so that the timing on all the audio input sources are now synchronized, so
Nice.
that's a good one.
Did anybody bring any current events they want to talk about? I looked into the
Do they have to be
data,
about data science?
preferably tech oriented.
Well, I was just going to say that there's going to be a new strike for the video game companies.
Oh yeah, I heard they recently unionized. Yeah, kind of about time for them,
Yeah.
frankly.
Wait, for
They
who?
joined SAG-AFTRA, like they
Mm.
actually started, they joined that union.
For yeah, I'm not familiar with what they do. Which union does that cover? Is that like
I think
entertainment?
it's,
SAG-AFTRA is the
It's
union
actors and
actors.
stuff.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so live
Huh.
mocap people, voice
Interesting.
actors.
It's so weird the way.
It is an AI-related thing, though, in that
Yes.
conversation, just that weren't they trying? Well, most of the actors know, but weren't they trying to use some sort of AI capture technology,
Yes.
and then basically they're selling your likeness in perpetuity
Yeah.
to these
Yeah.
studios.
Yeah.
The writers won against the use of AI for writing scripts. Like
Okay.
the writers themselves
That's
are
awesome.
allowed to use a certain amount, but the corporations cannot use it.
I think one of the new compromises is for the first season, there must be, it is mandatory to have 3 writers. Yeah,
Kind of arbitrary.
yes.
Yeah.
But that's how a lot of regulation ends up. You know, it's they say something like most rules are written in blood, which is a little extreme for this case. But the point being that in the future,
people have died, so.
well, then it's their livelihood.
That's
You
what
know,
OSHA is saying.
Yeah.
than
Right.
anything.
sure, but right, yes,
That's
but
the point for us.
But as far as like, yes, it is a little dramatic to say. But the point being though is that, you know, the idea that even if should we get to a point where you could hypothetically have original content totally, which is that is another rabbit hole to go down. What is original content? But the point being that regardless of the state of AI, that writers will have jobs, and that's kind of, I guess, the point of the union. You know, but just to further that, it is interesting how union law gets chopped up and written. Who's allowed to join what? Like video game developers joining the Actors Guild.
My gut impression from this is that they just decided to draw an arbitrary line somewhere in the middle and call it compromise.
Yeah, well, I mean, there was a whole lot in the 80s that was done to kind of disassemble labor to the point that we're at now. And a lot of it was around like proper like hard labor, you know, like Teamster and it extended into service industry, but now because we're so, service industry almost outweighs the labor, like, I don't want to say proper labor because service is hard work, but you know what I mean when I mean like
I think the rate
warehouse.
was one of the touchstone moments or whatever was when Rate fought against it was pilots, but it was related to air traffic control.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Vaguely,
That
I
was
think.
kind of the start of the tone of that era, which is what you're saying.
Mm.
It was very anti-labor,
Yeah.
very pro-corporation.
It benefits. There's a very conservative economist by the name of Milton Friedman. I'm sure you've heard of that. They came out with a lot of the Reaganomics stuff, in part, fueled a lot of it, but that when you actually listen to him speak, he's not actually anti-labor. It's just that from his perspective, and there's some truth to it, that it's easier for educated workers to organize. They're more effective at it, but it is not as beneficial for people who are less educated. Because generally speaking, it is harder for them to coordinate, organize, but I like mine.
Okay.
The voice of
His voice is louder.
the power move. But anyway, so it was just an interesting talk, and I think it has some point. Because when you look at who are the more powerful unions currently, they're either public sector, workers, or they are educated, But where are the service worker unions? Where are the,
And they were purposely targeted, and the reason why it's really hard for unions to formulate these sectors is because of the last placement. So they literally what they do is they make it a rate issue inside a company. Black versus white versus non-white or black.
divide and conquer?
Dividing them up, and so the last place syndrome is where they say, you are getting paid little, but you have a social income that you're getting for being of a certain such as for race. You have, and so there's a lot of that here taking away that social income that you get for being of a certain group.
Social income.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So,
Yeah, I mean,
that's why my opinion is like anti.
that's funny. You don't get taxed on social income, though, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Well,
Michael, can you go back to the mic?
yeah, sure. But anyway, in part, why I'm actually doing this instead of being a part of making video games was the working conditions. So it's funny that
Actually pick the mic.
it's about time. I think it was like a year ago now that they actually finally, was it Take Two organized or something? I don't remember. But it was like, it really was like, holy, it's about time. If you look, CS degree is expensive. I guess it depends where you go. But school's expensive. You get a CS degree. And it's kind of hard. And then they don't pay you that well, frankly. For a senior position, they don't pay you that well. And so then it makes you wonder if Yes, that's another Blood, Sweat, and fantastic book about the development of the Witcher series. And really, I did a couple other games, but really describes the pressure of crunch and who's making the decisions. Look at, you just, like the CD Projekt Red, I think that's really what sealed the deal for me. Cyberpunk dropped. It was one of the games I was most excited for, but it was the people in the boardroom who pushed it out early, way early, so that they could double dip on the console release. And it's like, man, at what point is it a game that I've made if I don't have any say in how it's being made? In any regard, I can't even put any sort of flourish to it, So what is the point then in working in this industry if I just as well do it myself or with friends or whatever?
The one thing is there's between like the marketing and the sales team, and I think that's where people tend to focus saying, it's marketing scheme.
Yes.
Likely it was actually sales scheme. There's different departments, and it's mostly, I think everybody in the business empire hates the sales team.
I think. It definitely
when you speak to developers. No.
You're talking to accountants, finance, economics, even the marketing, they all hate sales because they always are the ones that are given the most money and are the ones that are doing the least amount of work and that are giving deadlines, making decisions, not looking at actual facts.
Sure. Well, I mean,
just by definitely simplified analysis. They have one specific metric that they have to look at.
Right.
Everything looks
Right, like definitely to speak to that, you can look, and it's another one of those things, you just kind of look at the state of AAA and kind of look at the features stuff around early release, lots of bugs that they fix right after, and gambling. Like you could call it anything else, loot boxes, I don't know what else there. It's all gambling. It's a way to extract the most money out of people that will pay them. The whole industry now relies on what's called whale hunting. And the whale is someone who's willing, for whatever reason, to spend thousands on a game. And that's what they're trying to, that's where most, and it's like, no thanks. You know, like, if I'm going to earn money to do something terrible, I'd rather get paid well for it. You know, so it's like, and with data science, you can at least, I will say that it was the Chevron environmental scientists that first detected global warming, the environmental change. Now, did they do anything about it? No. But they were at the forefront at one point. Well, yes. Right. Yeah, their bottom line. Which they actually, though, not to speak too ill of them, do give the club a lot of money. Just so that's on the table this month. Because they hire a lot of data scientists, but.
Well, we can always be skeptical of any
Oh, yeah, yes,
absolutely.
And my perspective is frankly that so long as money is important, we all got to eat, and to be financially independent is very important, especially in this day and age, I think. Though, I think, well, just to finish the thought that if you have an important issue, and there is an organization that is key on that issue, maybe you should get into the organization. That it might, while you might not be majorly influential, you can at least see what's happening, so that whenever you feel like you need a change of pace or whatever it is, that you have some idea, that you can speak in an educated manner, not just in that organization. But anyway, Moshli, you wanted to say something?
Yeah. I never thought my question from last week would be pretty much to the top of the town because I realized some people were talking about the question I asked last week regarding the data, wildfires, and how it's secured by other elements such as war related.
Yeah.
A lot of people have talked about it because I heard from Professor Ali that.
No, Mosh. We were talking about how it. I'll talk to you later after this about that.
How's it going?
Because a lot of people. I heard a lot of people were talking about it behind my back.
Well, I don't know. I didn't hear anything about it.
Yeah, it was like. Mosley told the question about body war and foreign oil and all.
I will say, just to speak to that for a moment, it was a little off topic, but I think the only way we find out what a good question is we ask questions. So, all questions are always welcome, and I thought David did a great job.
Okay, let me cut away.
Did you want to? Yeah. I think we can hold for a little bit longer. Just people are filtering in a little bit, but
I'm good on my end. So
okay. All right.
Yeah. Well, the one we talked about earlier.
I'm just thinking about so okay. We can just talk about agenda a little bit, I suppose. So does anybody have any announcements, anything that they would like to bring up? And this is not in terms of current events? Yes, that is a fantastic question, and I wish I had good answers for you. I think Point Man Hashem is
bit busy.
Yes, yeah. And so I haven't heard too much about it. I don't know if y'all have heard too much about it.
So the thing is, like Hashem, he's
Do you want the mic?
the ASI CS director. He's also VP of the Joint Council. He's very ambitious. We do want to get the drone project running. Don't get me wrong. It is something we really want to get going, but it's also a very big project with a lot of logistics, and so we're still trying to figure out those logistics. We should have an answer for you guys halfway through next month. I know it's not what you want to hear. It's not what I want to say either. I want to get started on this now, but it's just. Right.
Yes.
But it's a 2-semester project, and even if you're in any senior project, or senior design or something, you don't really start your project until next week. Right now, it's just logistics, part of any senior design. It's a big project, so it's probably take that much time as well. Like I said, it's not something I'm very happy about right now. But what's up? Do we have a backup?
Yeah. Yeah, I got some.
As far as the drone itself, we do have drone parts. We're working on acquiring them. We worked out the design of the drone, so we're currently going through that. Yes.
To be at least any idea
Transition to which one? Back camera?
Even if we don't have the project moving forward, we can jump on
Are we not on?
Sorry. No. So this is the current camera. This is the next camera. Gotcha. So as far as APIs going, I would ping Hashem. I know we're going to be using Python. He has the document for all the things that he wants to use about the different APIs, but if you want to go yell at Hashem, though, his office is on this floor down the hall. You can just walk in there and say, "Hey, I need to talk to Hashem," and just say, "What are you doing?" Please do so.
But in other regards to possible projects, though, there is going to be an expo on April 6th. I know I mentioned it in brief previously, so if I just floated it in case anything popped into anyone's mind, but I think we are going to try and do that. We're going to try and do something interactive, but ideally it will be overall a learning experience. I don't know if we're going to have everyone there at the table the whole time, but it's kind of far out, and I think it's really going to have to wrap next semester, so we'll get more logistics. But if you're interested or know someone that is interested in gaining experience in data science, I'm definitely looking to hear from membership about that. But we do have another thing that's more in the more immediate term. I don't know, Amelie, if you want to speak to that at all. The Horizons thing. I know. Yes. Sure. However you like to. Whatever order makes sense. Okay. Sure. Okay. So, do I have any other announcements? I guess there was the fact of voting members, and so actually today is a fantastic day to bring it up because it's kind of my point, which. So there's this thing we have to meet in order to vote on things called quorum, right? And that we have a pretty relaxed membership requirement. You got to come to one meeting. Now the problem with that is that we have to then meet a minimum, and ours is pretty low. And so I was thinking it might be something to talk about with the office first. How low can we go? But it gets to a certain point where it's really not a democracy anymore at that point. So the next best thing is that we just have to vote over the course of 2 weeks, in which case we say, hey, on this day we're going to decide who the voting members are, and then show up the next time to actually vote. Because I don't know if we meet quorum now. We have about 50 plus people, so it's like we need, if we push to 60 members by the end of the semester, we would need like about 20 people to be here, which we tend to get. We've got, especially early on, we did get that, but as the semester goes on, there's greater variability to that. So that is a concern. If anyone has any solutions that they would suggest, we are trying to be a democracy. So feel free to suggest whatever it is. But in any case, I think that's about it. Now for something completely different.
Okay, we're gonna do something new. I don't think we've done anything like this semester. So we're all gonna get up, okay, and we're gonna start talking. Now I want you guys to form into groups of 3, but before you do, we're gonna play a game. It's just a little icebreaker. You guys are gonna be saying 2 truths and 1 lie. So like, I like ice cream, I play video games, and I'm a CS major. The lie will be, I like ice cream. So you guys are gonna guess each other's lies, okay? And I want everybody talking, and I want everybody standing. So again, get in groups of 3. Make sure it's people you don't know. We'll point at them to get to know new people.
3.
Okay.
They're doing it. Yeah, sure.
Is there?
Okay, I'm gonna start the timer now. I'm gonna give y'all 3 minutes, okay? Again, 2 truths, 1 lie.
It's all right. It's all good.
Now you guys can start.
Should be.
Can we showcase the timer on the screen? I don't know.
I know the lie. One lie is I like to jump off balcony.
Okay.
Jump off rails. 5 or 6 stories.
Okay.
And last one.
So you're supposed to.
I think
Which one is the You say make 3 statements. Okay.
I like to play video games. I like to exercise.
It's not even good.
I like to jump.
It's confidence.
They overlap.
What?
They overlap.
Probably.
I think so.
They're trying to guess.
Yeah, sure. Just like that. Right, no, it's a great idea. It's unfortunate.
I've been to all 50 states. I've played with a live band.
We're doing a game. You can just join whatever group you want.
We can try our group. And then the third one is
we do another round of that. Let him take that.
Yeah, I have an encyclopedic knowledge
Do you want to start again?
like the local brain drain. So let me run through it again. Doubling. In all 50 states, I played live on stage, playing bass, and ace of spades. And I have an encyclopedic knowledge like
Speak Sherman. And
do you think that's one?
No, I will say it.
I think so. It may take a while to travel to many different states, depending on how much you have in your budget.
So here's the second part of this, which is that
I try to get
like I don't know anything on plans. Come up with
I get a feeling that he was like looked out of the window just yeah, so people were like,
I see tree. Okay. So here's the second part though, is to explain the truth. There is a so you took the states over the road trucker for about a year. Yeah, so that's 48 of them. It's obvious they didn't drive to Alaska or Alaska. Those are both vacations. So I took a cruise up to Alaska and as a kid. And we only need one person.
Let me try.
Yeah, sure. Easy game, easy life.
I've already been like something that acted. You hear about being 12 thing. 30 plus.
You're gonna start like a dating thing.
My microphone. That's fine. We can really. Jeez, that is louder than I thought.
Okay.
What do you stop it?
Hit stop.
I can't.
Hit the stop button. In case you couldn't tell. Yeah. There's no what? Oh.
There's no food today because I was like asleep for like the last week. So
Next time.
Okay, well,
if you want to go buy food in bulk and then bring it and I give you reimbursement, that also works.
Yeah, if you want to organize. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
you got the important stuff figured out, you know?
Yeah.
Really. Exactly.
Okay, good to know. More food. Definitely.
Okay, well, I hope you guys had fun, you know. I hope you guys shared each other's names and shit. But we're gonna start talking now. I do have one quick announcement. So I'm hosting a table. Sorry. You're good. So I'm hosting a table for middle school girls on October 14th. And we're just going to be talking about data science, try to get them interested in a career in data science. And I was hoping to get another student, a female student, to help me with that. So if you guys know anybody who's into data science, who knows a lot about data science,
We're just interested in learning.
to reach out to any of us, the community members of data science. Okay. That's it.
Great. Thanks. Alrighty. All right. So that little the icebreaker was.
It's 3 o'clock.
Well, thank you. Was courtesy of Amelie here. So yeah, I know. And that's me. Yeah. But in any case, definitely something probably we'll be doing more of in the future, I think. So did you guys get a kick out of that? Was that cool? Yeah. Cool. All right. Cool. Very cool. All right. With that, we can move into the topic of today, which there's a couple of them. All right. So first, Victoria, you brought up a pretty interesting current event around data privacy, and so while us as data scientists are more concerned, we don't necessarily get too much into the ethics outside of the scope of our project. I will say it is important, especially if you're building something and you get sued. So to know kind of the rules of the game, it is important. And so there was a law that was passed, I think, was it last year or something, and that it is now on the books, like it's in effect as of the summer, I believe, and that it was really more of a policy change, I believe. I believe it did go to the voters, and what it did is extended data rights, and it extended data rights to employees and any stakeholders in a company, because previously a company, if you were employed or an applicant, if you sent them a resume, you did not have rights to your data then. And so they were free to do a shareholder, boardroom member, whatever it was, an organization, that organization had the rights to your data. Well, that changed. So now as an individual, regardless, and isn't that crazy? How many resumes, how many applications have you guys done to how many companies? They all owned that. They all owned that. Isn't that kind of nuts? But now it's different. They changed it, and someone asked, how is California positioned in terms of data regulation? And I think this kind of speaks to that a little bit. We're kind of ahead of the curve in the fact that we're considering it at all. No, I don't think there's too many other states. Maybe New York, Texas might have to follow sooner rather than later in terms of regulating these things. So it was interesting. It did. I did some digging, and so it was. But I think that was
the key parts to it, data rights to like stakeholders of companies, employees, board members, applicants. Oh, another thing they did, previously there was no distinguishing between sensitive personal data and personal data. So I don't really know exactly what that means, but what I can tell you is that there is some data that is certainly more sensitive than others. I don't know where they drew the line on that, but that there now exists the category of sensitive personal information, probably like social security numbers, stuff like that, which was, for some reason, all handled the same as something like what kind of sandwich you like. Isn't that a little absurd that just now is getting on the books? This is in part what I mean. Whatever, and this is why I'm interested now. I'm interested in advocacy for a number of reasons across a number of fields, but that my interest and presumably most of your interests are more private side. The private side tends to ask for forgiveness. So this is something to be aware going forward, that despite what you do today, you might have to consider what it will mean tomorrow. So some of us are CS, right? I don't know if y'all have to take like an ethics course or whatever. And it was very interesting, but I don't know how much it actually like really addressed. It gave some really great frameworks, and introduced some great ideas, what we value and all that. But I don't know how much it really helps distinguish, like, should we be valuing sensitive data in a way different than typical data? That's a hard question. And part of the reason why I say, well, I'm on the private side, I don't really have to worry about that. I'll let the people whose job it is to worry about that. But there is you have to pay attention. You gotta know the rules to the game. So with that, just to kind of speak to the whole data privacy thing. Previously, business-to-business interactions, that was not regulated. So the data between business to business was however you'd like to handle it. But now apparently they are now subject to what is called, I guess, our equivalent of the GDPR, which is the Euro kind of data privacy-centric thing. We have what is called the CPRA, California Privacy Rights Act, I believe. And so B2B is now integrated into that, which is kind of interesting. Companies have rights to their data. I know there's this thing where it goes around this idea of a corporation being considered a person. And while I don't necessarily agree with the literal sentiment of that, there is sort of a necessity in a court of law, if you're suing someone, for there to be actionable sort of elements on that, which we can only really as people conceptualize as other people, in the sense that a company has right to their property, but that's a whole other rabbit hole, really. It is interesting, though, that now this is under this law, businesses between each other now have to be sensitive. So it's a changing field, and it's interesting to see the way the landscape shifts, especially when we talk about, like if you are a small business, especially, that on maybe something like whatever Meta's platform is, you did not have rights necessarily under this, so that's another one of those things. I brought it up previously before, how does regulation, is regulation good for competition? Is regulation bad for competition? Because there is this sort of thing of how, and again, your business. part of everyone has this. A camera, it can record voice, and you can send all those things. You know, so it's just another one of those things where I suppose, someone asked me about near future implications, and so I guess to kind of tie it into the development of these things, to effectively be present in multiple factory warehouses at once with sensors on everything, telling you what your capacity's at, kind of where people are, but have one person able to have that presence in multiple factories. That's kind of what a metaverse might look like, where you're able to use a digitized realm, so to speak, using real-world data, make real-world decisions outside of that space that are then reflected from that digital space into the real world. Did that make sense? Anyone confused? Well, there's a lot of implications that is organized through real-world data, that has modeled real-world data in some way. Anyone know Invisalign? Invisalign, yeah. So when they scan your teeth, you know, and then have the model there, and then figure out how to shift your teeth based on
That's scientific ideas, right? Just
sure.
My 2 cents or something I heard recently that said, you know, it's like, how are you doing today? Oh, you know, same struggle, same or different day, right?
Yeah.
Somebody had to come back and it was like, oh, you know, new day or the new liver, same day.
yeah. I mean, you know, like modern distillation practices, like for a lot of human history, we've had spirits and beer or whatever, right? But it's only like recently through industrial techniques that we've pushed anything past like 3%. Like anything over 3% was crazy. That was weird. But now that's like, you look at the bottle on most anything, it's well over that. They used to call it liquid breath, you know? I don't know how much you can really, my grandfather growing up in Mexico would drink the beer because it was safer. I don't know if you could do that in this day and age with the beer they got now, you know? But anyway, so that's just kind of to speak a little bit, I suppose, on that video game space, you know, perspective implications and all that cool stuff. But did anyone have any sort of follow-up? Yeah?
Unity's whole day, Wizards of the Coast thing of the subscription.
Right. Yeah, everyone heard about the whole Unity thing? Yeah? No?
They actually pulled back.
Well,
yeah, no, it was, so I'm actually a shareholder in Unity. Let's just say I'm not very happy about the CEO's decision. In the shareholder space, we actually, there was an email going around of asking if we want to remove the CEO.
Yeah.
It was that bad of a decision that we all went like we like money, but that's just horrible.
There's definitely something to say for sustainable practices, you know?
Yeah.
They have their ecosystem to think of.
Yeah.
You know?
Just for record's sake, for anyone who doesn't know what's going on. So what Unity did, their CEO decided to make this fantastic idea that every single time that their game was installed and launched, that Unity would get a cut from the developer every time that happened. This potentially would have happened every time they renewed a subscription, or the user renewed a subscription, started up the game for the first time in a very long time. Every single time a disc was put into a new console, Unity would get a cut. And it was not good. It was a very dumb idea. And their cut was, I think it was 20%? Something like that? I don't know. Right? Yeah, no, it was some ridiculously high amount. And it was just stupid.
There's a lot of backlash,
yeah. And it was retroactive.
Yes.
So any game existing currently on Unity would also be affected.
Yeah.
Most people that use Unity are small creators.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was a big punch in the gut.
Yeah.
It's
well, and it's I think actually a continuation of a trend that y'all will probably continue to see, which is tech companies are tightening things up. You know, just to think, oh man, like there was just another instance of a company where they were basically like charging more. Like Netflix had an increase in price, you know, and they've also the pattern in which they're producing content, right, has totally changed. In fact, they've overproduced at this point. I'm blanking on who else, actually. But it's this thing where you are getting less for the service fee that you are paying.
The biggest one I can think of is
Sure, it's going to come back.
Like
Photoshop? Adobe,
you
yes.
would have the discs and you would download it, and that was it. It was single payment, now they're subscription-based.
Right, yeah, right. I'm sure, yes.
Are you talking about the stuff that you would download, like America's Online or?
Not necessarily. AOL was a one-time fee, so we're talking about like...
No, it's not.
Disney Plus?
Oh,
Yeah.
I see.
In the music producing space, I can't remember what thought was. I think it was even Keybase. But they were trying to change retroactively to a subscription model too.
Yeah.
Which means everybody that's on the product up until then
Everything
were forced onto it.
Right.
Well.
I'm blanking hard. Well, yeah.
Oh, that's right.
That's a great example. wasn't, I'm sure I'll recall it like
$1,000 per
but that's,
subscription. Is that also like, does students have to pay that like 500, 1,000 subscription, or? Just don't use the industry standard, you know?
Yeah.
Why?
Why are they?
Why subscription?
Why be evil?
Oh, well, so
Money.
I was just talking about this a couple days ago. I wish, well, and you know, I think they're shoring up for uncertainty in the near future markets.
You're saying, Victoria?
There's also a threshold of income which makes people sociopaths. And so people at
More likely, yeah.
So no, it's not even more likely. There is a threshold to this. It's been proven. The only way that you can combat it is being consistently exposed to poverty.
Oh, I see what you mean. Like being totally disconnected.
So yeah, it's being
I see what you mean.
disconnected from society and cultures. That's why we find joy when like billionaires die in the summer.
Yeah, that did strike. Yeah.
No longer part of our culture. They're no longer seen as human because they themselves have chosen no longer to be part of human society.
Yeah, I see what you mean. There's definitely a number of people, time and time again, where you can kind of look at the decisions they're making and possibly where they came from, and that there is a strong disconnect, you know. And also, the rules that apply to them are clearly very different.
I think one really good example of like is Keanu Reeves, because everybody
Sure.
else, nobody has anything bad to say about him.
Sure.
It's because he's consistently exposed to poverty and working with people in poverty.
I see.
And he I think whenever he has like free time, he goes down to like Mexico and builds houses for the homeless. Like,
how can you hate that guy?
He's going on to Subway and stuff like that. It's the consistent exposure to culture and being part of human society that differentiates sociopaths.
Yeah, I mean, I just to speak a little bit, I mean, I could not imagine saying $1 billion in equity. Like, that is an insane amount of power.
There's no ethical way anybody can become a billionaire.
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions I would have to follow that up. Like there's again, to get into morality and ethics, it's really easy to start. You really have to start from somewhere and move to somewhere, in a sense, you know. So I guess it depends on your framework, in the sense. But ultimately, though, especially when you look at today, I would agree that there is a tremendous issue, like even in the tech space. I think we're talking about the alignment issue, you know, and that there's the misalignment of AI. Are they going to really do what is beneficial for us? And that there's a tremendous amount of wealth in these companies, and yet that is still a question. That is still a problem. There's a concern and an apparent problem that these models are not necessarily working always to our benefit, in the sense there are biases that they have that we're still figuring out, that are in the data that we just didn't really properly see. But man, I'm not going to be able to think of the string of examples that I was speaking to yet. I'll put it in the Discord if it comes back. Yeah.
I have a quick. I don't know if you're thinking about that.
Well, that's yeah.
So they were the API can change it for Twitter.
That's what it was. Yes. Yes, that's what it was. Thank you. Yes, the Reddit and Twitter stuff. Those were definitely two prime examples. The whole API restricting across companies. It definitely seems like that they're trying to almost like get rid of programs that would offset some of their costs in such a way that they are trying to reduce their user base to those who will pay them more money. You know, that's kind of the sense of the movement. From my analysis, you could say. But yes, thank you. That was exactly the two. Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't Twitter X now?
Yes, X. I'm sorry. It's already one. Yeah. It is. It's X. I know. He likes X. You know, maybe if I was in high school, I would be like, that's crazy. But now I just don't care. You know. Anyway, it's yeah. Did you see the thing he did with the sign next to the apartment buildings? He put the X sign. Yeah. Where it was just flashing, like, you know, you ever been in an apartment where the light's broken doing that thing? You're like,
They didn't like that though.
Yeah.
Violated code violence.
And thank God for the codes, huh?
Why it just look like an eyesore?
Well, because like if you were trying to sleep and you don't have blackout curtains, that strobe, having been in an apartment with a broken light before outside, it's not fun. It's not fun. It's not cool. Especially if you're living in San Francisco, paying to live in San Francisco. I'd imagine that yeah, those people had something to say.
And let's not forget, it looks like just a sculpture of messed up metal. You know, it's like they took metal off of some scrapyard and just made it into an X.
Yeah, I mean, I think there definitely could have been more to consider the environment that they were trying to build it. I'll put it that way. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, so awesome. Anybody else have anything to add before we? Sure.
I gotta admit, it's insane paying subscriptions these days. Because think about it, we used to have just Netflix and Hulu, and now we've diverted into many different streaming services like Disney Plus,
right.
Max. We have
and they're getting bundled.
And Paramount Plus.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
And
there's ads now too in paid services more so, right?
Companies merging one another. Companies are merging one another.
Well,
it's funny how much stuff is streamed by the way.
Yeah.
It's kind of hilarious running through the options of like what we do to entertain ourselves. You know? It used to be like, well, I'll watch a movie, I don't need my TV player.
Sure.
Like that. But it's like, oh, okay, so I'm on social media, cool. Well, let's see if we watch a movie out, everything's streamed. TV out, everything's streamed.
It's reinvent the reinvention of cable.
I was just going to say that. Isn't it funny how history seems to have a rhythm to it? Maybe it doesn't repeat itself, but it's certainly got a rhythm.
It rhymes.
Yeah, it rhymes, yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but
It's usually for years. I followed trading years ago.
Yeah.
You guys can make your own movie service if you ever want to do that.
Yes. You ever heard of Plex?
Jellyfin and Envy. Plex is running some
But
Plex, Envy, Jellyfin. There's so many options to make your own Netflix server now. It's more than ethical.
yeah. How do you find that?
How do you get the movies?
You just stumble upon them.
Yeah, just look up anything. Look up software with the hyphen ending R. Just don't worry about it. You just gotta use your sonar a bit and find a bit of a use your radar, your sonar, and kind of figure out where things are. You know, there's a lot of R things if you know what I'm saying.
I saw a funny, what I thought was a particularly funny thing. There was apparently something a professor somewhere had put out, which was that the bookstore is adamant that you buy books for them and do not use websites like libgen.org. Like, do not use, because you could accidentally then find the book you might need at a reasonable price of $3.99 and make it school affordable. So don't do that. Go buy it from their bookstore. Yeah.
Also, the rise of piracy depends on how accessible different things are.
Sure.
So we had piracy back in the early 2000s when Netflix came out, and we had all these things. Now that Netflix is getting competition, there's all this subscription, we're seeing the rise of piracy again.
Yeah. I mean, I think they also tried to, there's like a huge push to do a bunch of takedowns, which they did, but you know, that's a matter of time, you know, and then I suppose bigger things came up. I don't know. But yeah.
If you want to talk about how to access movies to put on your own server.
Yeah, and don't forget to do not use a virtual private network when you're doing it, because your ISP will get concerned after a certain point.
Oh yeah,
so
ISP must know.
They know what you're downloading, so do not get a VPN and then use that website.
And do not look up software ending in RR. Absolutely do not do either of these.
No, we don't advocate for that.
Piracy actually promotes competition.
Yeah, I do. I am pro competition, so I'm not pro stealing. I am pro competition. But all right. Well. Anyways, sure. Yeah. So, automation. Sure. So, out of curiosity, what is everyone's thoughts on automating with AI? So, I think it's actually a good question to ask all of you, because I know my stance on it. What is your guys' thoughts on using AI in art? Does anyone have a thought on it at all? What's that much?
Honestly, it's kind of in the baby stages right now, kind of, so it's going to be a bit difficult to use AI with art, especially since AI is still text-based. Still not yet. I tried to type up to send to post a chart of what's going on, but it said that the text-based form, the ChatGPT, so I was not able to get a visual representation of a question I asked.
Okay. Well, I mean, the thing is you're using ChatGPT, which is a generative text model, and generative text models are not necessarily designed to go about and.
Can you flip to the ChatGPT?
Yes.
It's interesting though.
So it's not necessarily made for doing generative AI models, or sorry, it's not necessarily made for doing things like creating images. It can do stuff like creating. No, that's not what I wanted. That might be a good thing that's not on the screen right now. You don't know about it. Don't worry. That's a good question. Actually, that's in the Constitution.
So if you're interested in that process, I can tell you all about it. But how you're able to do a financial audit on the club. Yes. Yes. If we have quorum, which is again why I brought quorum. If we have quorum, y'all can vote for a financial. Yeah. No, just that you can do what is essentially a financial audit if you have quorum. But that's part of the reason I want to make sure y'all are able to get quorum regularly. But in any case, yeah.
On the subject of AI-based image generation, I was in this conversation with my smart major.
Yeah.
And every kind of smart major meeting, it's very interesting to polar opposite perspectives on, say, how to I get polar opposite takes on it.
Yeah.
And I, at the end, kind of have to admit that I'm a little biased because I'm computer science.
Yes.
The main thrust of the argument was they're tapping into all this art that's been created and posted online by a bunch of anonymous artists without consent and without getting back credit, right? And again, my perspective on it, or the part that hurt me a little bit, was this technology is very much in its infancy.
Yes.
And it wouldn't even begin to be able to be a thing if it didn't have access to that. Yeah. Right? And so that was kind of where the conversation broke down.
Right, and I think there is, and I'll get to it, but also to add to that too, there is this kind of question of what do you own when you make something. The abstraction of the art is a concept, right? It's an idea. Do you own the ones and zeros? Because the way these language models will process an image, which they can now, they've been able to, frankly, is they're able to basically look at the complete metadata of that picture, and from that they develop an understanding of that image. And so, do you own, when you put up an image on a platform that represents your art, I'm not saying one does or doesn't, but that do you own all of sort of the digital abstraction that goes into presenting that piece? You know what I mean? Like, you're not processing the image, the raw image itself. It's some sort of, normally the model is making some sort of abstraction itself. It's downsampling an image. And so do you own the downsampled data? Which is a hard question to answer, I think. But yeah.
I know that they did put in effect laws surrounding images when it comes to AI,
yeah.
Such as you cannot copyright AI, so you can't go online and ask for like a logo and use that logo. You actually have to go to an artist to get a logo. That's no, it's not copyrightable. But also they had a debate on each artist has their own style, and AI had been going in and making these styles.
Yeah.
You could type in a certain artist's name
right.
and ask for that style, and these could be artists that are still alive today,
right.
making these arts and stuff like that. And that was a huge contested because I think any artist would know that an art style is very personal and
yes.
it is something that is kind of copyrighted.
Right. Yes, there is ownership to it.
Michael, can you switch to projection with camera real quick?
Sure.
It should be ready to transition. So something that I actually found kind of interesting. So going off of just like the whole who owns the art type deal. My personal opinion is if you're doing generative art, it's a raw draft. It should not be your final draft. I mean, for instance, let me just do something like first use this feature, expand the canvas to. Okay, let me just expand the canvas, I guess. Yeet! Is that big enough for you? Cool, it is. Man eating ice cream. Thanks for ice cream. So if we wait for that to generate, it does a decent job of getting the idea of what you're trying to do. But it's, yeah, don't look at the hands, don't look at the eyes, don't look at the mouth. It's not cool. Jesus. Speaking of the eyes and the mouth, but it's not easy.
Is he like giving a French kiss?
I mean, what is eating about this game? But yeah, it's not great. So stop. You don't want to see the eyes and the lack thereof. But then, when I was taking smart classes over the summer, we actually had a very interesting conversation as to is it art or is it not? Because a lot of famous artists that we know of actually use art warehouses. They never touch the art themselves. They tell other people how to use the art of what they want to inspire. So you know those like metal balloon animals that you might see everywhere? Yeah, 5,000, whatever. That sculptor or painter, he's never touched a canvas in his life. He's never actually painted in his life. Well, he obviously has experience in it, but he has other artisans doing the work for him. He's basically a director of the art, and then having the artisans create the art for him, which is honestly, after thinking about it for a while, it makes sense. When you make a sculpture the size of those like 50-foot balloon animals, they take a lot of time, and having one artist doing that, they're only going to produce maybe one of those in their lifetime. If you have an entire team of artists that work under you, you can produce one of those every few months. And so we came to the conclusion that it's more of a rough draft thing. If you do like a final push, so this was a piece of homework that I did, which was I came to the box. Yeah, it's not bad to realize there's an I. It's all right. We're gonna send them into flight today. This is Photoshop version 1. Obviously, version 3 is not any better, but we got to the point where I like to draw a line, but I sometimes draw blank what I'm trying to draw. Don't find my Instagram, the art is not great. But this was very helpful for me because I could tell what I wanted to draw. Something like, I wanted an old man eating ice cream in front of a matte yellow wall. It did a pretty good job at that. Granted, this is the 52nd generation that I asked it to make, but in the end, it did a pretty good job. And for my final draft, I think I did a pretty decent job. It look slightly more realistic. Again, don't look at my Instagram, it's not great. But
you draw this yourself?
Yeah, this is something I do. I bring it in sometimes.
You do oil painting?
Yeah. I mean, granted, the dude has pudgy fingers and it looks like he only eats ice cream every day. Don't worry about that. What's that, Mosh?
Did you draw this with oil pencil?
This is pencil and graphite, or pencil and charcoal. But I ultimately came to the idea that it's a good way of getting your ideas out and then finally going over and doing it yourself. As Troy mentioned earlier, you can't copyright the AI work. But if you dramatically go and modify the effects of the AI artwork, then you can then copyright. Brand, you can do that with all artwork. So perform the dance, graffiti, basically all music nowadays. But it's definitely something that is useful in automating our tasks. So while yes, there's a worry that like it's taking over art styles and getting things done, if you're doing it to practice, if you're doing it to further yourself, such as like this, getting the idea of what you want to draw before actually drawing it, it can be pretty useful. Yeah. Yeah, it does. It ultimately came to like, is it as ethical to use AI? Because you can layers, you can circle around and use it. Is it ethical to use it as opposed to using like an artifact where you have a ton of artists you pay to make it for you? Granted, one's a lot more expensive and has a lot more talent, but there is some stuff in between. Yeah.
You know, speaking of drawing, that there's a feature you all might not have been aware of. You can tell GPT draw.
Is that on 3 or 4?
On 3 or 4, 3.5.
No, can you do this on 3.5?
Oh yeah, in fact, actually 3.5 draws better than 4. Draw a house in ASCII. Because it's text-based.
Not bad.
Oh, that was my computer, I guess. But
Animal Crossing, you know, it's fun.
So
that's what that is. Yeah, so if you type fast enough, it's like Animal Crossing, exact copy.
This is the last one.
Here's put the mic. Here's go there.
See, that was much better.
Wow, I didn't know that. Cool. That's a lot better.
So speaking of AI, what I just wanted to cover, I suppose, a little bit, is that there was in the, you know, that, I'm sure you guys heard a lot about OpenAI and Google and kind of what they're doing, but that there is kind of a structured race, a new, tandem to the space race, you know, in AI. And it's really being fueled by 2 key players, and that is, that is being fueled by 2 key players, which is Microsoft and Google. Now, you heard a lot about Google, I'm sure, trying to keep up in a number of ways, but just to go through kind of a little bit of how this is just exponentially speeding up. 2018 was when GPT-1 was released, initially. 2018, no. In fact, GPT was built on the Transformer model, which was designed by the Google team, the Google Brain team, and published in 2017. So a year after the paper was published, the Transformer paper, GPT was built by OpenAI. Right? So I'll just skip a little bit here to go to GPT-3, which was initially released in 2020. 2020 is when 3 came out. And that's the game changer, because that's what ChatGPT was built on, right? The thing is GPT-1 and GPT-2 were open source. They were open source. OpenAI kind of ended the OpenAI with 3 because Microsoft has exclusive licensing to GPT-3. I can't tell you guys what the deal was before. But so GPT, or rather, ChatGPT was released in 2020, 9 months ago. Isn't that crazy? It's 9 months ago. And Bard, so that was in November 2020. Bard, which is most definitely not up to par, was announced on February 6, 2023. They're just trying to keep their head above water at this point. You can kind of see, and the pattern goes on. You know, stable release, GPT, August 3rd, 2023. You know, and then what is this that I have? Oh yeah, that Google offers an enterprise service with their integrated AI. That was this year, or no, that was just beginning of the month actually. Yeah, it was this year. And then Microsoft has their own since they have the licensing rights, right? And now Bard, actually, I don't know if you guys have checked it out much, but now I'll just to keep it really brief that what you're looking at basically are 2 primary players, one of which was really streamlined to do this sort of thing, Google. At every single step of their ecosystem, they are built to integrate upwards. That they're really trying to leverage this thing where they can put Bard in their search engine, in their phones, in their smartware, in whatever it is. Google is able to then use their model. They can integrate it in. The downside is, I don't know if you guys have used Bard too much, right? And you can. I think it's publicly available now. It's not. It hallucinates way more. That's what I'll say. But to offset that now with Bard, they have this feature of auto Google, where it searches every string sentence and parses it with the Google search and highlights it in red or green, whether it came back accurate. So this is what I mean by Google's really leveraging their integrative services, that they're able to combine effectively their search engine and their AI model to produce a product that contends with GPT, where GPT's strength is really in its ability to actually perform. But they don't have a full ecosystem like Google does, right? Like we think about the hardware that OpenAI has, I don't think they have any. They have some other services, like DALL-E and all that, but really their strength is in their model, is in their research. And that's where Microsoft comes in. So Microsoft has now, I believe, partnered even with Meta, and they have access to the Llama 2 model from Meta, and OpenAI GPT. And I think they're working on their, oh yes, it's their own sort of service, their own enterprise service you can subscribe to and all. And Bing has now integrated GPT. So Microsoft, really just being one of the largest hills in the valley, you could say, is that they're able to acquire and integrate, not in a streamlined sort of linear manner the way that Google can, but they know the space, they have the ties to compete and contend in that way, and that they are funding a lot of what is behind, I think, the current GPT sort of contention between them and Google. And Google's really just trying not to get dislodged from where they're at, So yeah, and there's some interesting stuff, but really I think in part inspired this is actually, Terrence, most recently you put something about ChatGPT is now capable of audio and itself voicing to audio. So we're just going to see it get crazy, I think. It's really cool though. I wish I could go into the full diatribe of the breakdown of kind of the iterative competition that they're really tightly in, but I will say that it is worth mentioning that the Google and Microsoft and whoever and Meta in some capacity aren't just the only people. It's worth mentioning that Amazon has a service called SageMaker, and that they have now dumped billions into their own sort of R&D to get their own model going. And definitely was Azure. Microsoft has Azure. That's kind of what they're working on as far as high computational. And then IBM is worth mentioning. They have Watson and their own supercomputer they're working on. And then also to get credit where credit is due. I don't know if you guys have heard about the Cruise vehicles in San Francisco, the self-driving cars.
I ran into one of those the other day.
I took one.
Really?
They're crazy.
They drive really well,
Surprisingly well.
Despite the fact that batteries half the time. But
I didn't feel like I was in danger.
Yeah.
Which is not always the case when I'm taking Uber.
I didn't feel like I was driving right next to it. I didn't feel like I needed to move away from it. It was really good.
But the self-driving car space is another sort of place in automation where you can really see competition. It's not as prolific and it's been more ongoing. I think because it's probably been more uphill for them. It's a hard problem to solve the self-driving car completely. But really key players in that are Cruise, which is really majorly owned by GM and part owned by now Honda, and I think a couple other car companies have kind of tried to spin up the equivalents. Ford did not do well in that space and something like that. Yeah. I was going to Tesla's worth mentioning in that they really show stark competition, that they have road experience, where Cruise is just now gaining that. And Cruise has like a moonshot mission where, I mean, Tesla likewise does have this full automated ability, moonshot type, but they are already integrating and gaining experience from having their cars go on the road, experience every instant you can, not just in the city of San Francisco. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what happens if you stand in front of it and like you move?
It stops.
And you know,
If you put a cone on it, it stops. Yeah.
It'll basically stand up. It's pretty wait for you to move.
They just need it to be better than the average driver, which I think is pretty low bar. Yeah, and there is some sort of question about when someone gets in a crash using an automated model, who's at fault. You know?
They have issues with emergency vehicles not being detected.
Yes, there are a whole suite of variables in driving. The person handles so far a lot better, but I think it's a matter of time at this point. And where Tesla does have some blind spots with their model, again, it is because they are worth mentioning. They are a strong competitor, and that is part of their emphasis even. And that Waymo by Google also is working in the same space, not as big of a scale, but definitely the Google team is trying to get their own self-driving car. And what I think is going to actually be the future of self-driving cars is not going to be a new car you buy that drives by itself, because most of the cars on the road right now can't do that. And you need every car, well, ideally, to be self-driving to really have properly self-driving cars. So what we're going to see probably is retrofitting devices, something I think Apple is working on. But there is a company, a startup already working on it, using smartphones called Comet AI.
Oh, yeah.
And they are they still around? Oh yeah. Yeah, they're
left for Twitter and stuff.
He's some brilliant child genius, savant type character.
So you heard of when PlayStation 3 got hacked on Christmas? That was him.
The whole idea though is you have a camera right here. And that's what Tesla uses. They use cameras. So if you just put your camera, and some of the cameras you can buy now already on the market have like lane assist technology built in. But the point is if you just put this in your windshield, well now you have some, and you have the Comet AI capability. But now you have some self-driving capability too, and that's cheap. That's affordable, and you can put that in any car. So anyway, I think I went a little over time. But most of the points I want to get to.
Real much. So something really quick. Drew just proposed an interesting project to me. Basically, a small contest to see not necessarily the grossest or most grotesque image, but we want to see how bad we can make. I'm just going to share this one up. You have one. You're welcome. I could if you want me to see who can make the most bizarre photo using AI. We need to find an application that's free that everyone can use. OpenAI now currently charges you. There's actually another website that I would have to go find that allows you to do 3 images before it starts charging you.
There's nothing in it, I think. It's now Crayon.
Okay, so we'll find out. But in 2 weeks from now, it'd be kind of interesting if we have a sort of pseudo competition. If everyone creates like really, let's say
that's the most cursed AI that you can come up with.
Yeah, we can vote on it. So they're really counting that out to see if everyone is. The most cursed image you can generate with, and is that a snake? Oh, it's a centipede. Okay, it's just like the most cursed image you can make using any AI tool you can think of. Yeah, we'll just do a small competition to see who gets the best one. I'm gonna get a sandwich. Did anybody have any questions? Oh wait, one more thing. Next week we have a researcher in AI coming in to speak. Well, I say coming in, but he's going to be projected onto the projector, and he's basically going to Big Brother in. This guy basically lives and breathes artificial general intelligence. So he is basically trying to make Cortana. He is quite close, in my personal opinion.
We talked. Just try. He was the vice president, and he's a very intelligent person.
Currently trying to define what intelligence is mathematically, which is interesting.
I think it's a good idea of how it will come about. I think he is correct in that way, but no one is nowhere close.
Yeah, well, I want to hype him up a bit. Yeah, no, you're right. But if you know anyone that's interested in learning about artificial intelligence or has any questions to do with general artificial intelligence, bring him next week. Like, this is the person to ask. He's currently a master's program at Johns Hopkins University. He's currently a researcher at Johns Hopkins University as well. He was personally invited to be a researcher there during his junior year at Sac State. So he's very, very knowledgeable about this topic.
He can actually speak to the way some of these models are organized. Like I know I've spoken a little bit about the mathematics behind it, but he actually has a really working idea of how these things get built, the neuron layers and all that. So you can really actually ask him some of the key questions about how one might assemble one out of the simple matrix.
Yeah, that's his topic, which is how we make neurons think. Or the intelligent neurons.
He's the one that taught me in part. So
Yeah,
take that.
okay, really intelligent. Let people know I'm going to put advertisements on the right signs. That's about it. We are way over time, and I need to break down. So what's your left, what's your right? We already did the icebreaker earlier. Introduce yourself. Y'all have a good day. Thank you.
You're welcome to stay here until 4 if you like, obviously. But
It's almost 4 though.
If anyone wants to wave at the camera, like I said last time, semi-tradition, you want to come up here with the camera, go for it. You need to break down really. So let's do it quickly. Might as well fair. Not over there, we're here, so bye camera, bye live stream, bye live stream. Wait.